pass on or pass out.
Oh, no. I should get the rock.
Keep us awake.
Yes, well, thank you very much. My two paintings are this one toward Meadow Creek and St. Peter's Cemetery, Nemaha County, Richardson County, respectively. These are part of
Hold this, and when you're done, pass it to the next artist.
These are 2 of 26 paintings that are in a book that I did in collaboration with the writer Jen Chisholm Wright, a book called The Barren Hills of Nebraska. What got me going on this whole thing is that for the last 40 years I've been studying the timber rattlesnake in Nebraska, and these are from their habitat. And I've been watching this land. We've heard a lot about changes in land today, and I've been watching this land change over the years. And I seek out these little dwindling places that, escape the plow, escape, the pasture, whatever. And I just watch them get smaller and smaller, like an evaporating blot on a slick surface. And this is interesting. It's that road actually trends east and west. The bluffs on the left overlook Morgan Island, an important feature of the Missouri River. And when I used to come down there were bluff prairies on tops of the hills, and they're being devoured by red cedar and Cerecio lespedeza. And I watch them get a little smaller every year. This one over here this is a different experience. This is middle October. I was out looking for my precious snake and was having no luck. It was warm, it was dry, and I just decided I was tired of driving, so I pulled up here. This looked kind of interesting, and it was one of those rare moments where everything stands still. Got out, sat down on a little table there by the church, and it was absolutely breathless, and you could see and see and see. That's well over into Holt County, Missouri, there on the horizon. And I just kind of sat there for a long time, thought about everything, thought about the biologists who come before, the quarrymen.
Time's up.
Anyway, it was a great experience.
Okay, just pass it to the closest artist.
Hello, Paul Evans. I talk botany and many other subjects at Metropolitan Community College. Brought students out here to view a prairie portion that was not surrounded by housing, and brought students to hear silence or just natural sounds. After retiring, I continued taking pictures, photography, and this subject right here is 2 butterflies communicating on swamp milkweed, and this is down at Walnut Creek. And over here we have a little bit of prairie. As I went to take pictures at Carhenge, there you can see a little pond in the middle of the little gentle ups and downs of the terrain. And I tried to teach students the beauty of the microscopic little algae plants all the way up to large trees and all we might find that are native, cottonwood, so on. So I took students on field trips. It's probably the only person that did that. Other people would take that as a challenge that might be too much.
Hi. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, Karen Klein. I have this photo of little bluestem. There's also one right behind you that's gray-headed coneflower heads. And then the butterfly milkweed back there. And I guess in an overall sense, I think of these as an example of nature as art. that they have a lot of the things that, you know, and as an artist you would learn about the repetition, the form, all textures, contrasts, all of those kinds of things. There's sculptural elements to them that I'm capturing in the photos. And to me, it's that my photography is kind of creating a frame for you to be able to take notice of these things that otherwise it might just be all, you know, you'll go out there and it's just this whole big field with all kinds of things. And what I'm doing is capturing a piece of it in a composition so that you can give it attention and take notices that you might not otherwise.
Time.
Okay.
Kelly. You take the rock? Oh,
No, I didn't.
Oh, you
Yeah.
didn't see you, sorry. There you go.
I'm Lisa Sorella and I do photography, and so my two pieces are the starweed here, because I loved how the little lights reflected off the plant. I love macro photography, it's like a huge obsession of mine. I probably have a problem. And then the robber's fly, which was out here in the field. Honestly, I didn't know what it was. So I got home and I thought it was like a hairy dragonfly. I'm like, what is this thing? And then I read it's a robber's fly, which is like a gardener's best friends because they eat a ton of bugs. Unfortunately, they also eat the good bugs. But I just love the detail and the fascination. And then I was just telling Barbara the other day, I said, this place is a sanctuary for me. When I can get away from my normal job, I'll come out here during my lunch hour in the evening, and every day's different. I never know what I'm going to find or what I see. And so that day, it happened to be a perfect weed and a bug.
Okay, got it, go.
I'm Julie Wolford. My drawing is over here. Is it? Okay, I can do that. It's a very detailed drawing of a seed pod. I call it the Pod Deva, and it's part of a series. It's like the Pod Deva communications with the soul of nature. So I like to get into the symbolism of nature, and you know, so there are symbolic expressions of like what I call narratives with nature spirit, and I'm really into that. So it's kind of going inward, like into the spirit of nature. I love this place. This is my first time here, and I'm gonna be out here more now. This is awesome, and thank you, Barbie, for reaching out to me, because my email went to my spam folder, so I didn't even know I was going to be in the show until yesterday, or it was Friday night. So yeah, I raced and Barbie made it happen.
Oh, Trilly, you've got the rock.
I'm Trilly. I have 3 pieces. I have 2 acrylic. The swing girl is mine, and the hand on the prairie. So I took photos out here. They're both out here at Glacier Creek, and I wasn't super impressed with them just as photos, so I painted on them. And then I have this piece is a vulture, and it's made out of my best friend's inner tube tire. My boyfriend's a bike mechanic, so he changed Doug's tire and then left this scrap for me. And I
Let's
was
see
like,
the back of it.
I
Oh,
felt
look at that. Look at that. It's very nice, Trilly.
Barbie's my mom, and we used to embroider together. We used to embroider together, and hers was all Virgo, like perfect on the back, and mine was just a horrid mess. You couldn't even frame it because there was so much like knots, so many knots. So those are my pieces. I love both turkey vultures. I think they're super cool, and I always think that rubber is like a, you know, like petroleum, and leaves look like, or feathers look like petroleum. So those are my pieces.
Okay,
Thank
Sheree.
you. Shereen will go. I didn't know.
Go, Sheree.
I'm Shereen Bashara,
Well, get out of the corner.
and I have 2 pieces here and a poem there, and I suppose spending time at the prairie helped me make sense of things in my
too, wherever I've been my whole life, even as a child, before I even knew there was such a thing as science or history, I would think about what was under my feet wherever I walked. I've just reached the age of consciousness when I was about 7, and we lived in the East Coast, and I wandered all over the place with my brother, and we thought about the Indians who walked here before us. Well, we moved here, I moved here with my significant other, right before COVID hit. Isolation, no gallery, no reputation. So I started thinking about, all right, what am I gonna do with this landscape that's under my feet now? And one of the first things we did was drove up to the Niobrara Nature Preserve, and boy, did I find it was just astounding to me. I've been in Montana, but in the mountains, not on the grasslands. So that was big sky to me, big sky, and I was just amazed. So that's pretty much what these are from, that trip up to the Niobrara. Differences, I come from the East Coast, so way different edges, like.
No, okay. I'm just like trying to pass this to anyone else. My name is Becky McCarville, and I have this piece here. It's a cyanotype, and then the chair up there, and a hanging of a cyanotype as well. So basically, last summer, well, beginning of COVID, I was decided I needed to start walking around the Tri-Faith Nature Preserve, 132nd and Pacific. If you haven't been there, it's pretty beautiful. So, and kind of just having these experiences out in nature that were unexpected, I guess, and something that was what I felt like I really needed to be outside and walking and appreciating nature. And then took a class with Dr. Price actually last summer, nature writing. Everybody should take that class, by the way. But and so we came out here, and it's the first time I've been here, and it's just really struck me, on a deep level, I think, and just walking around and different ways of walking through and appreciating and just seeing how tall these plants are, just kind of imagining what it must have been like, before it was all cultivated and everything. So basically, this one right here is a taproot negative that Barbie let me borrow to make some cyanotypes. And so I don't know, is it an illustration, Barbie? I'm not really even sure, or is it?
It's actually from Weaver, John Weaver.
Okay.
It's a Weaver plant.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so I made a cyanotype out of it,
Right.
and then the chair up there is actually Barbie's hand showing a prairie orchid to my daughter and I when we came up here. So anyway, there's a lot of interwoven moments. So
Thank you, Becky.
thank you.
Okay. Sure. My name is Greg Land. I have these two. They're both acrylic on canvas. And with both of them, I like movement and texture, which you can kind of see. But I also like history and nature. And with this one, I wanted to include both. So I kind of wanted to depict how history still affects present day life. And it's still, even though maybe this windmill's not moving, it might not even be there, there still might be stuff coming off it, matter, who knows. And wind and stuff shifting this bird out of the picture plane and gone, and just like this was here at one time, maybe the bird's now out of the picture plane. But so that's kind of that, and history and present together. And then this was just painting. It was just about movement and feeling it as I was painting it, and it was more about that than I didn't have an idea of what it was or what it was going to be. It was just about, like I said, just how the process of me feeling it, and that was it.
Buffy.
Hi, I'm Buffy. These two here are my pieces. So I've been since the pandemic, I've been struggling a lot with my art. You know, it's been really tough. I was working retail and really struggling to get back into doing art regularly. So I started painting crops. That was, you know, about a year ago. That's kind of how I was coping with my life and burnout. And it was like my one thing I had to get back into art. I just painted a crap ton of crops. And, you know, I started getting more comfortable, getting back into my art, and I was like, well, what else can I paint, you know? And I got big into plants also during the pandemic, as a lot of people did. And, you know, I really, apparently, about a year ago, decided I want to take that further, and I was like, what weird stuff can I find? And, you know, I did a bunch of research months into it. You know, I found carnivorous plants, specifically North American carnivorous plants. They grow, there's some that grow up in Oregon and California. There's, you know, a bunch of them down south, of course. And I figured I could keep them in my home. So I've been growing carnivorous plants in my yard back for like about 6 months, and just threw them in there, and it's been so fun.
I'm very fond of Buffy's flies.
Yes. Yeah. And the flies, they were, let's just say they're happy accidents.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, next. Who's up next?
I'm Julie Sievers. My work is in pencil. I have the 2 cranes. I love the outdoors. I love going out there, immersing myself, and studying them. I try to celebrate their moments of life and try to bring them into our homes of suburbia.
My name is Mary Wolford, and I was inspired to do this artwork by a photograph my friend took at Standing Bear, and I liked the way the light hit the blades of grass, and so I was having a lot of fun with this. I do a lot of pop art, so this was something really fun and refreshing to do. And it's called Upside Down Day at the Jungle. And I thought this sounds like a kid's book too, so I might be writing a book too. So, thank you.
Does anyone else have a?
Kelly?
Alright, I'm gonna have to set the rock down because I'm not good at holding things and talking with my hands. My name is Kelly. I graduated with a BFA in 2017 in creative writing, back in school for a degree in biology. I'm really interested in illustration and science communication. In my spare time, in my volunteer time, I'm also a raptor banding apprentice. And one of the things that we really focus on when we catch these birds, we try to age them and we try to determine sex. And the way that you do that is by looking at their feathers. Molt is a very advanced topic that I cannot possibly cover in 2 minutes. But there is a very specific sequence in the way in which specific species will molt their feathers. And so depending on that sequence, you can determine their age and you can determine their sex sometimes. So these are grassland birds. I focused on grassland birds because they are some of the most imperiled birds out there in comparison to just other birds in other ecosystems. So this is, I feel like this is like wrestling ring kind of stuff. So this is a female sharp-tailed grouse. This is a male sharp-tailed grouse. And you can see these are the tail feathers, the innermost. They have different characteristics, as do the colorations of the outer tail feathers. And then this is a juvenile bobwhite quail. Basically, you can tell it's a juvenile. All of these primary feathers look the same. And then the primary coverts, they have buffy tips. In comparison, this is an adult bobwhite. You can see there are no buffy tips on the primary coverts. And if you look really closely, you can see the outermost primary. It's really ratty, it's really worn. That's retained from when that bird was still a baby. And you can also see the next innermost primary, it's starting to molt in. So you can tell that this is an older bird than that bird there. I'm done. It's colored pencil on hot construction paper.
Okay, so I am a biologist, so I let Kelly go a
Annie.
Okay, go.
Hi, I'm Annie Brugenhemke. I don't know where, I have two pieces. The hollyhock there behind that gentleman is mine.
Oh, the other one starts the show up here.
Oh, does it? Okay. Well, yeah, I was late, sorry. I haven't got a chance to look around and everything. So I did a series, I've been working with botanicals and flowers in particular for many years. That was a piece from that series. I particularly love the hollyhock. Have been unsuccessful at growing them ever, but there's so many things that I like about that flower, how the blooms hold tight to the stem, kind of barnacle-like. They are not, there's no fragrance there. They're just, there's just something about the hollyhock that I've always appreciated, and it's a rural flower. I found after I painted this that people would gravitate to this image and talk about their memories from childhood at their grandma's house, making dolls, that kind of thing. And I never actually did that myself, but I did go to some grandma houses and see a lot of hollyhocks. So the coloration of that one was particularly important for me to depict it that way. I love that inky purple that you can't see through. The other one up there is a beautiful drawing up there. That's there you go, there you go.
Yours are over here.
Oh, good. I was just wondering.
There's
We
one
got here
there,
late,
there's two here.
and I didn't see any, and I thought maybe I wasn't in the show. I'm Buck Christensen. I'm a photographer. The three I chose because my favorite photos tend to be the ones I suffer the most for. The ones that make my hands freezing and my feet freezing and dewy and ticks all over me. And so there's one there, there's in the hallway here. So these are my favorite ones. When I look at them, I feel what I felt in that moment. And yeah, so I hope you feel the same thing. That's it. And I have a studio with Annie over in Council Bluffs.
Hofstone.
Honey, do you want to grab the phone so Megan can do hers? And you can take Megan, please?
Oh wait, what did it
I'm probably not the best person for that, I guess.
Megan Thomas?
I'm Megan Thomas. This is my little painting. It's kind of an important one to me because it's my first, and like I'm kind of getting into a new subject matter. Like in the past I've been painting like a lot of objects, a lot of still life, a lot of like just lifeless kind of things. I've been trying to add life to lifelessness. And I'm feeling increasingly inspired by that outside world, but a complete void of that. So this is my first, so it's appropriate that it's here.
Yeah. And we all know those trees.
Yeah.
They're that
they're
down
iconic.
there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did we miss anyone who wants to speak? Okay, if you're not an artist, you can still speak.